Hello and welcome to Sectors Up Close. I'm Ramzan Karamali. Today we're looking at the restaurant chain sector. My guest is Randy Watts, Senior Portfolio Manager at O'Neill Global Advisors. It's been a challenging year so far for stocks of the legacy fast food chains. The likes of McDonald's, Burger King parent Restaurant Brands International and Wendy's are all lower year to date. The cost of living crisis has seen lower income customers opting to eat more meals at home, forcing companies to offer steeper promotions. In fact, earlier this year, McDonald's reported its first quarterly sales miss in nearly 4 years. And in an effort to lure customers back through the doors, it plans to introduce a $5 meal deal next month in the US. But will it be enough to counter slowing sales? Well, to help answer that and much more, I'm joined by Randy Watts from O'Neill Global Advisors. Randy, thanks so much for joining us. Well, let's start with McDonald's there. We're in the middle of a cost of living squeeze. You'd think that more customers would want to go to somewhere like McDonald's. Why isn't that happening?
Interestingly, that bottom third of the American consumer is really being squeezed, as you mentioned at the open. If you look at McDonald's, their customers who make less than $45,000 annually actually have lowered their number of visits to the chain. And so McDonald's is trying to win them back with, as you mentioned, more value pricing meals. But in general, that low-end consumer has been so squeezed. Remember, minimum wage in the US hasn't risen since 2009, actually, and they're choosing to spend much more of their food budget really on grocery stores and eating at home than they are going out to eat.
Now, one of the other big players is Restaurant Brands International. They own Burger King and Taco Bell. They're not doing so well either. What's going on there?
If you look at across the fast food industry, traffic was actually down at about 3.5% in the first quarter of the year in the US. That's a very big move. So chains like KFC, Pizza Hut, they're all seeing a decline in orders and traffic from where they were. And that pressure is likely to continue until either the value proposition starts to get better for that low-end consumer, or that low-end consumer starts getting a better income. Now, interestingly, the restaurant chains are actually also dealing with a labor problem in that many of them actually want to hire more workers, but there's also a low-end labor shortage in the US. So it's kind of a funny dichotomy in that they need more of these workers, but those workers actually aren't making enough money to increase their number of visits to these fast food restaurants.
Well, one thing I noticed when looking into this sector is Starbucks. Shares are down almost a fifth this year. Are people just not interested in buying cappuccinos and lattes outside?
I think there's a couple of things going on with Starbucks. One is they've obviously been hurt internationally. There's been some protests also in the US against the chain related to support of Israel. And then in general, I think there's a trend away from more sugary type products to more protein type products. Many of the products at Starbucks actually have a decent sugar content, and I think people are reducing their consumption there. For the overall industry, I think the industry is a little bit nervous about the GLP-1 drugs. And I think some of the ways chains are starting to try to combat that is to focus more on protein and meal size rationalization, because obviously the GLP-1 user is consuming less calories.
Well, one brand in this sector is Chipotle, and the stock price is flying this year. What's happened there?
So they're a great example of the kind of restaurants at O'Neill we actually like. And the two kinds of companies that are really winning in the restaurant space right now are either companies with sort of a healthy living, healthy food quality type thing. That's people like Sweet Greens and, like you mentioned, Chipotle, and also companies really focusing on technology. They're really doing both with digital ordering, couponing, et cetera. So we do think the trend is towards that healthier menu items and consumption. Those are the companies that are really winning versus the older legacy fast food companies.
Randy Watts from O'Neill Global Advisors. Many thanks for your thoughts. And that is your roundup of the restaurant chain sector. I'm Ramzan Karamali, and this is Reuters.